Hi everyone, it's me, Beaticali Sunflower. So I thought I'd hop on today and do this hashtag that I saw Angela from the channel Soul Dreamer do. So her hashtag is called Indie Turned Mass Market. I was going to start a similar hashtag called Started as an Indie Deck, because I've got like a Libib app where I kind of like catalogue all my decks so that I've got control. And I noticed that that particular subheading was becoming quite full. So Angela at Soul Dreamer started this hashtag because she realized that there was a lot of decks that were indie that were being picked up by mass marketing publishers and nobody ever talks about them. So I'm going to add the Soul Dreamers video to my description bar. I think Soul Dreamer had about 14 decks. I've got about 25 that I'm going to show you. So I'm going to flip the camera around and show you those decks. So the first two decks that I want to show you are the Mystic Mondays Tarot and the Ethereal Vision Tarot. So these two decks started off, I think, as Kickstarter decks, and then they actually went mass market before the actual Kickstarter decks were sent out to the backers. Especially this one. I remember this one because I almost backed this deck, and then when I saw it on mass market for a lot cheaper and not that much different, I got it from Amazon. And I remember that I actually received this deck before a lot of the backers got theirs. So this deck is by Grace Dong, and look, they've got beautiful silver edging. These are the backs of the cards that are reversible. And do you know what? I haven't used this deck for quite a while. I think I'm going to start working with this deck again. So this deck's very beautiful. It's got like coloured sigilled archetypes. And if I can remember, the minor arcana is Pippish. Yep, so this is the cups. So you've got the Three of Cups, or semi-Pippish. But this is a beautiful, beautiful deck that I need to revisit again. And the Ethereal Visions deck, again, this was an indie deck, and then it went mass market before the indie backers had actually received their deck. There was a big drama about this deck, I remember. If I can remember, there wasn't much difference between the mass market and the indie version, but it's a beautiful, beautiful deck. Although it's not very multicultural, I do like this deck. I like the archetypes. I like the gold rims. I actually took this deck with me to Gambia and Nigeria, and people were requesting this deck to be read with. It's beautiful. Look at that sun card. So this is my Ethereal Visions deck. So the next 6 decks that I want to show you are Hay House published decks. I find that Hay House do tend to pick up a lot of indie decks. So my newest indie turn mass market deck is the Fifth Spirit deck. I got this deck last month. It's by Claire Charlie Burgess. It's a really nice deck. I've been playing with it a bit for one card pulls. Beautiful, nice, you know, informative guidebook. And look at these gorgeous cards. Quite multicultural, kind of non-binary, embraces all ages. Love this deck, but it is new to my collection. So this deck is called the Wandering Star Tarot, and it's by Kat Pierce. I kind of remember seeing this deck on Kickstarter because I was in two minds whether to back it, and then I changed my mind, and then it became a in mass market deck. Beautiful deck, you know, very kind of facial. The facials tend to be quite big in this deck, and as you can see, there's kind of like keywords within the deck to prompt people. This would be quite good for as a beginner deck. Really, really nice. These are the backs of the cards. Again, I've got the eye there, and I love it. And I'm so glad that I didn't get this deck indie, because it was a big price difference, and the cards are not much different. Okay, so the Crow Tarot by MJ Culane is actually US game published, but I think Hay House published her other decks. So I got this deck really because I've got a phobia against crows. I can't stand them, they freak me out. So I thought that if I could have a tarot deck with crows on there, that it would kind of help me come to terms with crows. So I can now look at crows in pictures, but I've still got a big phobia with live kind of crows. It's a beautiful deck though, and it was kind of, this deck kind of healed me with looking at pictures of crows. Another deck by the same creator is called the Guardian of the Night Tarot. This is also Hay House published. This is a kind of new deck to my collection. So it's kind of like an animal based deck, and it's just gorgeous. Lovely cardstock. And I just like this creator's kind of art style. Look at the backs of the cards, aren't they gorgeous? The Prairie Majesty Oracle by Cara Simons, and artwork by Amy Putney Coing. I saw this deck indie for quite a while, and I was and ahhing. And then when it came out mass market, and I think Martin from Tarot in the City done a side-by-side flip through, that's what made me buy this deck. I mean, there wasn't much difference between this deck and the indie deck. I think it was just that the indie deck had gilding. But, you know, it's a really nice kind of earthy oracle, and it's got kind of keywords within the text, which I like. And I've been using this for daily pulls. It's quite a kind of like healing deck as well in many ways. And it was a big difference in price. I think this was about £15 from Amazon, and the indie deck was about 50, if I can remember. So the Lightseer Tarot by Chrissy Ann. I was and ahhing about getting this as an indie deck, even before it became a Kickstarter deck, because I saw it on her webpage. It used to be joint with the Muse. And it was like 10 of Swords that made me get it mass market, but it'd been changed by the time it got to mass market stage. I kind of edged them in green, but this is the first mass market version that I got from Hay House that had a few issues with it, in terms of the cards not being level and blah, 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 you know, not cut straight. So Hay House did send me another deck that I haven't opened yet. That's a seal deck, but the actual artwork is good, and I enjoy working with this deck. And there's not much difference from the indie version. The only difference is the edging, and obviously the box. And I think the book's a bit more detailed in the mass market version. I also had the Muse Tarot, which is also by Chrissy Ann, and this was also an indie deck. Again, the difference is the gilding. I think the indie deck had pink gilding. You can always do this yourself, and there's not much difference. This is a beautiful collage deck that I tend to use this deck when I'm reading my children. If I want to find anything out about my children, I use this deck to read with. It gives me very accurate readings. This rock pool deck by Samantha West, it's called the Cosmic Coordinate Tarot. And this was an indie deck. I remember seeing flip throughs of this, and I was quite happy when it became a mass market deck. It's gorgeous. It's got a nice guidebook. And look at the nice lime green edgings of this deck. It's just beautiful. It's kind of alien-ish, fun, naughty. You know, look what she's holding. It's like a willy. So the cosmic tarot. This deck here, the Relative Tarot by Prairie. It's a full deck as a mass-produced deck. It's kind of like a sepia in colour, and I remember this deck being a majors only deck. It's got, look at the beautiful gold edges, and this deck kind of reminds me of the Stretch Tarot by Joseph Stretch. Same kind of like Victorian kind of sepia archetypes, and I'm glad that they made it a full deck as a mass market deck. It's a cute little Lenormand deck. When I got it, the cards were in here, but I keep the cards in this little pouch. So I do actually have the indie version of this deck, and some of the cards I can remember have been changed in this one. I think it was the 28 and 29. Yep, so the querent, so the masculine, the man and woman has been changed in this one. But in the indie deck, it gives you various alternatives. That's one of my pet peeves with Lenormand decks. They're tending to take out the male and female and, you know, change them with things like partner, person, or whatever. But sometimes somebody like me who likes to be called a woman, it'd be nice if I could have that in a Lenormand deck, and if it was just if the other cards were just given as an option, because not everyone sees themselves as the partner or the other. Some people do see themselves as man and women. So I think that's the only thing that's put me off with some of the modern Lenormand decks. But this is not much different to the indie version. So this is the Pasta Tarot, which is one of my newest indie turned mass market deck. Comes in this kind of magnetic box. You get the guidebook and the cards. Look at that! Isn't that beautiful? Back of the cards. It's like a gingham placemat with plate of food, and it's just kind of like food based, and the cards are really lovely. They're kind of like a linen kind of feel. They're just gorgeous. So this is the Pasta Tarot. Our tarot. I must admit, this is not one of my favourite indie term mass market decks. Even though I appreciate that the mass market has got a more in-depth guidebook and stuff, I was a little disappointed with the cards, because a lot of the original cards in the indie deck have been changed or replaced in the mass market deck. The backs had also changed as well, and even though it is a beautiful deck within its own right, this is one of the indie term mass market decks that I feel was kind of butchered, because a lot of the cards were replaced in the mass market version. The Bonefire Tarot by Gabby Gingas West. I love this deck. Beautiful guidebook, which is very in-depth. It's got a two-part box for the tarot cards. I'll just pull out one few for you. I haven't used this deck for quite a while, but I must revisit this deck. Isn't that gorgeous? It's quite busy and stuff, and as you can see, the archetypes are inside the cards as well, the naming, strength. But it's just a really nice kind of tarot deck. It reminds me a bit of the tattoo tarot that I have, but it's really gorgeous. But if you're a person that doesn't like too much busy things, or you know, or you're distracted by this sort of busyness, you know, you might find this deck a challenge to read with. The cards are kind of like glossy, but oh, this is a beautiful deck. I am going to definitely work with this deck again. So this is the Bonfire Tarot. The Anarchy Tarot. So it came with a really informative guidebook. I don't think the indie deck guidebook was as informative as the mass market. I keep the cards in this little kind of bag, and I think I edged mine because if I can remember, the cards started to chip. So once I edged it, it kind of solved that problem. But beautiful, beautiful deck. Not much different to the indie deck. I have seen side-by-side comparisons. The only thing I don't like about the deck is the faces of the archetypes. They're kind of like, in my opinion, not very glamorous. It's just the facial expressions, I mean. But apart from that, this is a very gorgeous deck. Can be used all year round. Got that Ten of Swords for the person's, you know, healing and walking away. Beautiful. I think that's one of my favourite Ten of Swords of all times. Look at that Eight of Swords, just gorgeous. So, you know, I do like some of the depictions in this deck. This is the Anarchy Tarot. So the Next World Tarot, I have the bigger version, and I also have the pocket version. Both the same. So I'll show you the pocket version because it's more easier to show you. I think this was about £13. Gorgeous. Look at, this is a really nice kind of multicultural, kind of all-inclusive deck. I love it. If I can remember, I think that the bigger version was the cards were kind of flimsy compared to the original indie deck, but that was my only kind of qualm, and that's why I think I prefer this one, because the cardstock is more thicker and easier for me to shuffle. But I love them equally, both the same. So this is the Next World Tarot by Chrissy C. Road. So these are my this bag holds my Deviant Moon. So it's this one. I think, yep. And so these are my Patrick Valenza decks. So the first one is the Royal Mischief playing cards. This was picked up by US Games, but there is a indie version to this. These were gifted to me by the lovely Queen Offset quite a few years ago. Beautiful. This is my favourite playing card deck of all times. Just kind of nice. And this is the borderless US Games version of the Deviant Moon Tarot deck. I'll just show you a few cards. So they're really nice and borderless. I think this was my first ever borderless deck, if I can remember. But it's gorgeous. So this is the Deviant Moon and the Royal Mischief playing cards that were both indie at some point. The Urban Tarot. This was another gift from the gorgeous Queen Offset. And again, this started off as an independent deck, and I have seen side-by-side comparisons, and there's not much difference between the indie and the mass-produced deck, only the price. And I think this one is more of a froth inspired deck, but it's a really nice deck. I've been playing with this deck again recently, because sometimes when you've got like a lot of decks in your collection, you kind of forget which ones you have, or I do anyway, in my collection. But this is one that I've been revisiting, and I am loving it. So the Urban Tarot. The Tarot of the Mystical Moments. I love the quirkiness of this deck. Again, it started off as an indie deck. Beautiful silver gilding edges. And this deck kind of reminds me of the Dreamway Tarot that I have. It's the same kind of quirky kind of archetypes. I just love it. King of Pentacles. It's really, really nice. Beautiful. So this is the Tarot of the Mystical Moments. A similar deck, in my opinion, to the Tarot of the Mystical Moments is the Dreamkeeper's Tarot. Again, this was also a mass market deck. It comes with a really nice informative guidebook. It's by Liz Houston. And the cards are not edged, but they have that really nice mystical kind of feel to it. I have seen a side-by-side comparison, and there's not much difference between the mass market again and the indie, apart from the price. So this is the Fountain Tarot. This is a really nice kind of clinical, kind of clean deck. It's gorgeous. Lovely silver gilding, which is kind of, mine's kind of, can you see it's kind of wearing away now, because I use this deck quite a bit on myself. It's just lovely, you know. It's kind of Rider-Waite inspired. Well, I can see the connection to Rider-Waite. Others might not. And it's a bit of a Marmite deck, I think, this deck. You either like it or you don't. And for me, I love it. Look at that beautiful 8 of Cups. It's just a really, really nice deck. And I've seen comparisons of this one and the indie deck, and again, there's not much difference in the two, apart from the prices. The Field Tarot. This is kind of like a Pippish deck, and I got this deck so that because I have a kind of like aversion to pips, and I thought that if I get this deck, it will kind of help me to appreciate Pip-ish cards. I'm trying to find some of the minors for you. It's beautiful cardstock. It's really lovely. Oh no, it's kind of semi-pip. Can you see some of the cards are kind of Pippish, and that's why I got this. Really, more for that reason. It's kind of got a similar feel to me as well to the Fountain Tarot, but that's just my own opinion. So this is the Field Tarot. My final deck, which is the Crystal Unicorn Tarot by Pamela Chen, I think, is I'm not sure, because this deck is a independent deck, but I got mine on Amazon. Can you see? It's got the Amazon thing for me to review. But I'm not sure if Pamela Chen just done a few for Amazon and they're still independent, because I'm not quite sure, you know, who the publisher was for this deck, because it doesn't seem to be like a mass-produced published deck. But I know that this is an indie deck that I bought on Amazon, so I'm not sure whether there was a few mass market copies, because you can't get it again, or whether it was just an independent deck that was just put on there briefly by the creator. This is a really kind of like bubblegum yummy deck. Rider-Waite Smith inspired with all unicorns. I love it. So these are my indie turned mass market decks. I'd love to see everybody else's decks, because this is something that is dear to my heart. So thank you very much, Angela, for starting this hashtag. And I will leave links in the description bar to any of the decks that I can find. Bye for now.